So, of course, because the vast majority of you couldn't be bothered to be quiet when I asked and when the bell rang, you missed out on a very significant couple of pieces of information. You can ask the 5 people that bothered to listen. Everybody else, we are going to go to page 242. We're going to start doing notes on that, barring any questions from the previous 3 bits of work. Did you have any? Excellent. Now, you will notice the more what's the word I'm looking for? Not in tune. The more astute members of the class will notice that I skipped over this page that says assignment, because that is not new stuff. That is old stuff. That will be marked on Friday. That's what I just said, that it will be marked on Friday. Which means you can work on it today, or you can work on it tomorrow after you finish your functions exam. I know, that's why I went back to it. But we will be going on to the new stuff from page 242 right now, because I could only assume, because nobody has bothered to ask, that you are comfortable with slopes positive, slopes negative, slopes undefined, slopes zero, slopes parallel, and slopes perpendicular. Lovely. Let us move on. Cabbages. Now, in order to graph a linear function, you have been given 3 methods through the course of your mathematical journey. The first method you were given to graph a linear function was a table of values. Some of you call them T-charts. I really don't care what your name is for it, but you all know how it works. You make the little chart, you put the X's and Y's, you put you input the X, you get an output of Y, you put them on the graph, you connect the dots like you were doing a connect the dots. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Then I showed you another way you could do it. You could find the x-intercept and the y-intercept, which of course are simply 2 points that would be on your table of values. It is x0 and 0y. Once you find those, again, you put them on the graph and you, again, connect the dots. Then I gave you a third way to do it, which was slope-intercept, which was this form, y equals mx plus b. And in that form, you went to b on the y-axis and counted rise over run to get a second point. And then, of course, you connected the dots. Now, all 3 of those are wonderful. They work great. The easiest one, of course, to work with in my mind is slope-intercept form, because you need not do very much thinking about it. Unfortunately, how many y-intercepts does a line have? No. 1 y-intercept. And if that y-intercept happens to do something crazy, like go through right there, are you able to use that y-intercept? Why not? Because it is not exact. You do not know what it is. Everyone cool? So, there must be, and excuse me for a moment, I want to make sure I have my highlighter dot back. There it is. There should and is a way to do this move, where you just look at the equation and go to the graph, that doesn't use the y-intercept form, and that is number 4, point-slope form. And point-slope form is a very powerful tool tool we have to graph. And it looks like this. Y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Now, you've seen all of these before, yes? These 2 points are the known point that we can plot. In slope-intercept form, what is the known point that we could plot? We could go straight to it and put it on the graph. It was B. It was the y-intercept, right? Well, in this form, this is the known point we can plot. But it's a little bit tricky. What does that symbol mean in math? Because it means a lot of stuff. What is one of the things that means? Subtraction. What else? Negative. What else? Take away. What else? Diminish. Well, we're getting away from math. Difference. Now we're getting back to warmth. What does that symbol mean in this notation? Negative, or if I told you that's 7, what is that compared to that?
-7.
Not reciprocal. Opposite. So all of those things are needed in English or in math from that one little symbol, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Everybody cool? So what this is actually saying in this case, because I have no numbers, so I cannot subtract, and subtraction indeed does not exist. What is subtraction really? Adding the opposite, right? So how would we really write this out if I wanted to write it out and be 100% technical, not the shorthand way that we have changed this? What would I write, McKenna? Absolutely correct. Everyone understands, right? And you can see that what needs to go there is actually the opposite of what is written there. Does everybody understand what I am saying here? Now let's show you what that means. If I wrote y minus 3 equaled let's have a slope, 1/2 x minus plus 2, where do you think, knowing what we know, where do you think our starting point would be? You're guessing, right? You guys don't know yet, so take a risk. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? I'm going to say no. Get used to hearing that word. You're going to hear it a lot in your life.
The brackets.
Okay, it is the numbers that we have. What do you think would be the point I could put on the graph? Knowing what you know, knowing what McKenna just said, that we're actually adding the opposite. Okay, those are the numbers we would use, but how would they translate to coordinates? So, Crystal, you're guessing 2 and -3. 2 and -3. I have Manraj, your hand's been up for a while. We have a -2 and a +3. What else? Okay. Why are these 2s and these 3s? Because I'm not even going to talk about the positive or negatives right now. I just want to talk about the numbers. Why have you all... Because everybody agrees that it's 2 and 3. Why? Suhani.
Wait, wouldn't it be a y? And then... Wait,
Okay. Manraj.
It's because the 2 is x1.
The 2 is with the x's. The 3 is the y1. So everyone understands why it's 2 and 3, yes? Okay. Now, let's talk about whether it is positive 2 and negative 3 or negative 2, positive 3. When McKenna talked about this, she said we are adding the opposite. That's what makes subtraction, right? Okay, so if I am adding the opposite, this would really be plus negative 3, wouldn't it? Right? Okay. And this would really be supposed to be minus. So what would it be? Plus negative 2. This one's already minus and it's supposed to be minus, right? So it would be minus. So which of these is correct? One of them is correct. This one is correct. Because adding, everybody with me? So that's why it works. And as always, once we know why something works, we get our shortcut, right? And our shortcut is simply this. The starting point is x1 and y1, but opposite. Everybody cool? Now, to show you once again how it works, I'm going to show you again. Y minus 3 equals 1/2 x plus 2. Now, the other guess we had was 2 negative 3, because that's what we could see, right? Everyone agrees that the first impulse was, for everyone, was saying 2 negative 3. Okay? All right. What would happen? What letter does that 2 represent? That's an X. What letter does that negative 3 represent? A Y. What letter is that? Y. So what could I put there? Negative 3 minus 3, because that's what I'm subbing in, equals 1/2 x. Sorry, not x, duh. What is x? Positive 2 plus 2. Everyone agree?
Yes.
Okay. What is 2 plus 2? 4. What is half of 4? 2. What is negative 3 minus 3? Negative 6. Does negative 6 equal 2? No. Now, watch this.
Well, that was wrong.
I'm telling you why it works. Now, you've got the shortcut. It's opposite. So the actual point on the graph would be negative 2, positive 3. Agreed? Okay, now watch. What happens here? What can I put in here? 3. So it would be 3 minus 3 equals 1/2 bracket. What's going in for x? Negative 2 plus 2. What is negative 2 plus 2? What's 0 times 1/2? 0. What is 3 minus 3? 0. Does 0 equal 0? Yes. So that is why it has to be opposite. Is everyone cool? Now immediately you're all going to forget why it works and focus exclusively on how it works, right?
Probably.
Not probably. Come on. You are. Most like, there we go. Ganika.
Isn't that 0 equals 0 thing? Isn't that called something? Isn't there like a word for it in math? No, because in grade 9 we did that. We did it on the side.
It doesn't equal.
We do it. This.
Yeah, that's how a lot of people like to do algebra. When they check at the end, left side doesn't equal right side.
Yeah. I'm just talking about. Yeah.
I think.
That thing.
Okay. All right. So now we know how to do it. How would you graph this line? Where would you start? Positive 1. Oh, I don't need to write positive, duh. 1, negative 2. That's our starting point. And then what?
Plug it in, put it in.
No. We just want the attributes of the line. What does attributes mean? I'll give you an example. The attributes of myself are incredibly intelligent, super gorgeous, really athletic, short, fat, nearsighted, old. So what are attributes? Oh, all that was true. Every word that I spoke was true. Huh? Yeah, of course. I need to know what you can tell me about what this line would look like. It's a line that will go through that point with what slope? With a slope of -2/3. Right? So how would I graph it? I would go to that point, and I would go down 2 and right. Down 2 and right 3. Or, what else could I do? Up 2 and left 3. Everybody good? Okay. You guys do number 2, because it's exactly the same. There's nothing tricky about it. From M, where we always get the slope from. Okay. So, where's number 2 going to start? Excellent. -3, 4, and then we would go down 1, 4 right, or up 1 and 4 left. Everybody good? Because some people have a lot of issues with understanding that rise over run could be up and right or down and left. I'm sorry, what? What if you're at the bottom of your graph? Then you need to be aware that up and left is the same thing. Sean. As long as one of the directions is negative, you will have a negative slope. Ganika.
I'm sorry if this is like
Ganika, just ask.
okay. You know, like the second one, the 1 up and the 4 to the left.
Right.
Why can't that 4 go to the right? Because it's like a positive. It's not negative.
Which one? The blue or the red?
The blue.
Because there is my positive direction.
Yeah.
Then I must have a negative direction to have a negative slope.
Because
Okay? Okay. Now, what's different in number 3? There's no number written for slope. What is the number? Slope multiplies by that, doesn't it? What number, when we multiply, do we not write? 1. So what would this really be? 1 over 1. So what is our starting point? -1. And then we would go up 1 and right 1, or down 1 and left 1. Both negative or both positive. Yep. Of course you would write the slope as 1, because that's what the slope is. You wouldn't write it as Snickelfritz. The slope is 1.
So
What?
if it doesn't have a slope, it's always 1 over 1. That's like
If there's no number in front of x, the number in front of x is 1, because that's what the coefficient would be.
yes.
Anybody else? All right. What's weird about 4? There's no y number. What is the number that when subtracted doesn't change your value? 0. So this would really be y minus 0, wouldn't it? So what is our starting point? -4, 0, and then up 1 and 2 right, or down 1 and 2 left. Yeah, yeah? Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's weird about 5? There's no number, but there is a... So what's our slope? -1. What's our starting point? And then down 1, right 1, or up 1, left 1. And then there's a nice easy one for you to finish all by yourself. You're welcome. I got a million of them. I'm glad.
How long did it take you to create these books? How many years?
Forever. And I edit them every year.
Oh, wow.
Well, depending on what kids don't get. If something goes poorly, then I change it. But I only do it every year, so I have 2 semesters to try it out. Right? Because maybe the screw-up was just one class didn't have the right prerequisite stuff, or maybe their grade 9 teacher didn't cover that little particular part, or something like that. So what's the last one? Easy peasy lemon squeezy? 110. Up 4, right 5. Down 4, left 5. Everybody's good, yes? Why is point slope form very powerful? Well, every line has an infinite number of x's and y's, doesn't it? But it only has one y-intercept. So the point slope form allows us to use a graph and a line anywhere on the Cartesian plane. Good? All right, turn the page over. Let's apply some of this. Go ahead and graph it. What's our starting point? -1, +2. -1, +2. Then what? Up 2 and right 3, or down 2, left 3. And there's our line. Where?
Oh, I understand.
I think, Suhani, that I should charge you a nickel for every time you are confuzzled, and then before I can even take a breath, you explain it to yourself. Might I suggest the next time you say, I'm confuzzled, hold off for 1 second. I understand that, Preston. I do understand. We all know, Preston. We all know. What's a half of a half? Or I can't even remember. What was it that day?
You're like, what is 4/8 equal? It was like 2/4.
Yeah.
You finally got it.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with it. I am just joking. I want you people to ask questions. If you ask questions, at least I know something is wrong.
I feel like I'm annoying you.
You are not annoying me. All right. So easy peasy to graph, yes? No problem at all. But notice the y-intercept is not pretty, is it?
No.
So it would be kind of difficult to do slope-intercept here. Okay, what's the next one? So, down 2, right 1, or up 2, left 1. There you go. Easy peasy. Now, number 9. All of you just said that you had no problem with slopes and perpendicularity, yes? Well, 2 perpendicular lines cross at the y-axis. That's a lot of math in there, isn't there?
Yeah, but then
What do we know?
y equals mx plus b.
All right. We know y equals mx plus b. Yes?
Yes, you can do that.
Now, do the mixy-mixy?
Yeah, I love that one.
You give it a mixy-mixy and all of a sudden it works out. Does the line that we know have all of the components
Yes.
to make that?
I found the line.
I don't care.
Does it?
Yeah.
Do the two pink things have all the components to work together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How?
They have X's and Y's in them.
They have x's, y's, and a constant.
Yeah.
Okay, so how can I make this look like this?
Kind of like slip in.
We put in
Makes you hope for the best.
Throw it all in the blender, push liquefy, drink it down.
So let it
I wish you could do that for a test. That'll be sick.
But seriously, folks, what do I do here?
Well, wouldn't the
Negative y equals 2x plus 8.
B equals 8.
Y equals 2x plus 8, because you move the y. Now, could we graph this? This is not point slope form, it is slope intercept form. Could we graph it?
Yeah.
Where would I go?
You find the y intercept.
Which is what? 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Agreed?
Yeah.
And what is the slope?
2. So 2 over 1.
2 up, 1 right goes off the graph. So what should I do? It goes off the graph.
No, it's right on there.
Boo!
If I were to do that on a test, would it work out?
No! Now, what do we know about the second line? Line 2 we know is perpendicular. So line 2 is perpendicular to line 1. What does that tell us? The slope is opposite reciprocal. What is line 1's slope? 2 over 1. So what is line 2's slope? Negative 1 over 2. And we know they cross at the y-axis, which means line 2 must cross right there, correct?
Yeah.
Which means line 2 has what for a y-intercept? 8. So there's my y-intercept. I know my slope. I know my y-intercept. So what is the equation of line 2?
Y equals 2x plus 8.
Yeah! Y equals negative 64 over 128 plus 8. Y equals 752 over 1,504.
Like this.
That's so wrong.
Everybody good?
No.
What do you think about it?
1, 2. Oh, okay. Well, I. What part, Suhani? No, Suhani. It says there are 2 perpendicular lines that cross at the y-axis. The green line we graphed already. There is another line that is going to cross that green line at the y-axis, which means they have the same y-intercept. Sean. I'm sorry, Sean. I heard, can you still do, and then everybody else started talking.
I was wondering if we could just do off the reciprocal to like start. You only have 2 over 1. Like in the equation. We only do.
Well, that's what we did.
Yeah, so
We didn't use graph. He means we didn't use graph.
Oh, we do. Oh, we could, but we don't need to because the question didn't say graph the other line. It said just give me the equation. Cool? Okay.
And then we want line 1. And because, yeah, it just flip the one line. I know that.
Okay.
Ooh, just flip it. Yeah.
The whole next bunch of work is just graphing, but it's going to be based on point slope instead of slope intercept. All right? Now, what did you notice about this and this? you could move them around and change the form to make it easier to graph. Right? Good that you noticed that. Please turn to page 248.
Wow, so much practice. I like that. Are we gonna finish like the
Yep.
whole book?
It's going to be tight because of losing those last 2 days.
Why?
Well, I explained all that at the beginning. But you guys were having your own
I
conversation.
was listening. I just didn't listen for the second half. Sorry.
All right, what? Huh?
I know, right? It went downhill.
With the confusing.
Actually, all of you improved significantly from the first unit.
Can you see my mark? It's like puke.
Your first unit was awful. It was measurement. You guys were poopy at it.
Yeah. Radicals is my favorite.
All right, now, you already know this guy. You already know this guy.
I always see memes online because I'm not supposed to be on.
Right? Okay. Now, both of those have a name. That's slope-intercept and its point-slope form. But you also were just introduced to this guy. That guy is what we call general form because it doesn't give us any. Can you guys please just text to each other or something so I don't have to talk over you? I know neither one of you gives a rat's ass about anything I have to say, and you're going to go off and learn it all on your own, and you're getting 100%, so I couldn't care less. But it pisses me off to be talking over you constantly. Get out your phones and text to each other, okay? Like, I'm giving you permission. You don't need to be here, so go ahead and do that. So then you can shut up, okay? Thank you. General form, this guy right here, told us nothing. That is what it means. If I talk to you in general terms, I am not speaking to you specifically, am I? So, general form is just bleh. It doesn't bring anything to the party. And it looks like this. AX plus BY plus C equals 0. It doesn't tell us anything, but it has some rules. The rules are as follows. A, B, and C must be integers. What's an integer?
All whole numbers.
Don't say whole, because whole numbers are something else.
Natural.
Don't say natural, because natural is something else.
Oh.
All positive or negative, real numbers,
Decimals.
no. That's what's not allowed.
Fractions.
And no fractions. They must be integers, which means they have to be devoid of decimals and fractions. But they can be positive or negative. Except A. A must be natural. Which means it has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or whatever.
It could be in.
Oh, wait. Natural's the wrong one. Sorry. Must be whole. Because it can be 0.
There's so many different types of this. Do they all tie together? Or are there different types?
Kind of.
I remember learning something.
Kind of. All right. So, general form. General form doesn't tell us anything, but we can manipulate general form to tell us stuff. General form will quite easily show us our x and y intercepts, but not just by looking at it. We have to do algebra. General form, if we do algebra to it, what do you notice? There, and there.
The same.
There's x's and y's. What do you notice? There, and there. there's x's and y's. But you will notice that this guy has brackets, and both of them have the option of having a fraction, don't they? So neither of these can work with this guy unless we do algebra. Everybody cool? As you go further and further and further, they're not going to bother putting it into the forms that you want. They're going to leave everything in general form, and you're going to have to do the math with it. Because general form, as Brendan just said, there's a lot of stuff you can do with these equations, right? And if I write out this, then a great many of you forget that this applies to this, and vice versa. But if I leave it as general form, you can do whatever you want with it. Does everybody understand? This is clay with which you can mold your mathematical vase.
Vase.
No, vase.
I say vase.
You can say it all you want. That doesn't make it right. It's vase.
No.
Yes.
It's not how we learn
Yes.
it.
That's fine. That's not how you learned it. The word is vase.
It might be Europe.
But oddly, in baseball, I don't go to first base. I go to first base.
Oh, I get what you did there.
I know. All right.
That was like, you know, like when you're trick-or-treating at those things that's at the door.
Thanks. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, remember, for slope-intercept form, y is isolated, and that, it's not call and response, honey. Y is isolated. Y is isolated. It's not that. Okay. When y is isolated, that gives us our slope and our intercept. All that has to happen is y is isolated. Y is isolated. In number two, gives us our start and our slope. All right? General form can be algebraically manipulated to give us the others. And there is no new skill here. It's just algebra. So, what do I have there? I have general form, right? Yes, sir. No. Yes, sir. General form? Yes, sir. That's a major groaner. All right. So, right now, by looking at that, could you come over here and graph it? Y is isolated. Could I take this and graph it right now? Really? What's the starting point? You can't do it, can you? But what if I were to isolate y? Then y would be isolated. So let's do that. How should I isolate that y? You're going to move it over there because you want it to isolate. Right now there's a negative in front of it. We don't want a negative in front of it. So now I've got 3x plus 8 equals 2y. Is y isolated yet?
Y is isolated.
No, it's not.
What will I do?
Divide by 2.
I will divide by 2. Where else?
They do the whole thing, divide by 2.
Everywhere else. And what will I get? 3 3 over 2x plus 4 equals. Now,
Oh my god,
can you graph that immediately? Yep. Where do I go?
minus 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. And up 1, 2, 3, right 1, 2.
That's mx plus
Down 1, 2, 3, left 1, 2. Now,
the formula. Oh my god.
presto! Wingardium Leviosa. What? It's Leviosa. What?
Where did the negative go from the 2y? Can we just take that out?
Because I have, when I move it, I've added 2y to both sides. Now, stop for a moment. What is that point's coordinates right there? What? I don't have negative 4 written anywhere. I'm at positive 4. There's my y-intercept. Anyways, I have already never minded.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
We're just roasted her.
I'll ask again, what is that point? 2, 7.
What's that? 19 challenges?
What letter does that represent? X. What letter does that represent? Y. What letter is that? What's 3 times 2? 6. What letter is that? What's 2 times 7? Is 6 minus 14 plus 8 0? Yes, it is. I know, it's so hurtful of me to ask you to do addition.
I'm better at multiplication.
Okay.
No, it's because we actually have to memorize multiplication. We never have to memorize addition.
Then we have to like break the number apart and stuff.
Yeah, I know.
This is an ugly cousin of general form.
Cousin, I love cousins.
Okay? This guy gets its own name. He follows all the same rules except instead of being ax plus by plus c equals 0, he's ax plus by equals c. And this guy is called standard form. I don't know why we have to have a different form. I also don't know why the lady swallowed the fly, but we have a different form. What? No. Have you ever had to memorize anything in this class? I give you all the formulas all the time. What?
So if you were to plot the same numbers into both formulas, would it give you the same?
Yes. That's where we're going in the next couple of classes. You're ahead of everyone.
Oh wow, for the first time.
All right. Again, you will not need to. Okay. Now, it looks different. It has a different name. Do we do any different math? No. Graph that. How? Isolate y.
So you always isolate y.
If you isolate y, you will always have slope-intercept form. You will always be able to graph it. But you may be stuck with a y-intercept that is a fraction, which is why you also have the tool point-slope form, just in case. So, let us isolate y, cabbages. What has to move? I'm going to move that, so y becomes positive. But if I move that there, what do I got to do with that? So I end up with 3x minus 8 equals 4y. Then what? And what is my final answer? 3/4 x minus 2. Can I graph that in 1 second? Yes. Minus 2 Up 1, 2, 3, right 1, 2, 3, 4, down 1, 2, 3, left 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's my line.
Whoa, that was fast. How do you do that? Stop, Jasmine.
Okay. Now, yes, Preston.
So, on where it's like 3x, wait, when it's like negative 8 over 4, and it goes perfectly to negative 2, what if you get like a bad fraction that has like a 3?
I'll get to that. All right. But to be honest, Preston, we have covered that in the past, right? When it was a fraction, we just changed the scale. Right? Remember when we had it at 8/3? We just went up, right? Okay. So, just to remind you, this is in standard form. Standard form's real only use is the x and the y intercepts. What is every single x-intercept in the universe? X, 0. What is every single y-intercept in the universe? 0y. What letter does that represent? X. What letter does that represent? Y. What do you see in the equation? 5x plus 2y equals 10. Now, if I want the x-intercept, which of those two is disappearing? Why does the y disappear? Because 0 in there will make that 0. And I will be left with 5x equals 10. What if I want the y-intercept? Then the 5x will disappear, and I will have 2y equals 10. What is the x-intercept?
2.
X equals 2. What is the y-intercept?
I don't know. 5.
Y equals 5. Can I graph now? Y is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. X is 2. 1, 2. And what do I do once I have two dots?
Draw a line.
Connect them. Then you can find the slope, which is negative 5 halves.
Wait, what happens? Why do you only use the 2 y?
Because in an x-intercept, y is 0. 2 times 0 is 0.
I understand that.
Okay?
Yeah.
Again, without trying to sound exasperated, the numbers substitute into the equations. We've done it now conservatively about 75 times. Every time it's the same thing. The x's go for x's, the y's go for y's.
And why is the y equation negative?
Because when you put in the two intercepts, Suhani, the only way to connect those lines is with a negative slope. Yeah? All right. Now, write down an example of a line in each form. There's no way to do this wrong. Somebody say to me the form you wish to discuss and tell me how I could write it out.
The second one. Because you wrote the orange number.
Yeah.
So, the x minus y1 equals...
Okay, so give me an example. Write it. What would it look like? A line. Just say a point slope form line. No, that's not a line. Not y equals, because it's point slope form. That's what Catherine asked. Go. 5 equals 1 half.
3x.
Nope.
No, x plus 3.
That's an example of a line in point slope form.
Random numbers.
Now, what does that line tell me? Or what does that equation tell me?
It tells you x and y.
What are the x and y?
Negative 3, positive 5.
negative 3, positive 5, and a slope of 1/2. Now, give me a random line in slope-intercept form. 3x plus 8. What does that tell me? Slope is 3 over 1. And what is one of the points on the graph?
The y-intercept.
The y-intercept is 8. So what is that as a point on the graph?
0.
0, 8. Point slope form. Slope intercept form. Now give me one in general form. It's the one we just did.
The cousin one?
Wait.
No, that's a standard.
For the second one, how did you get 0, 8?
The y-intercept is 8 when x is 0. All y-intercepts are 0, comma y.
AX plus BY plus
Yeah, but those aren't
2x
Oh, you want another?
2x
plus 4y
plus 4y
plus
plus 8,
equals
0.
0.
That is general form. Does it tell us anything by itself? No. To get any information out of this, I must use algebra to get any info. And the last one, the ugly cousin, keep this. What would it be?
standard form.
Equals that's 8, 8, 8. No, 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 no. 8, no. 8, no. 8, no. 8, no. Ocho, no. Wheat, no. Ich ni sanchi go rook sich hutch q. Ich ni sanchi go rook sich hutch. No.
No, it's Neomer lights. What's wrong with 8?
A baby.
What is it really? C, which is this, and it's got to be moved over there. So what is it? Negative 8.
I said that you just didn't hear me. Supposed to 28. How'd you know? How'd you know?
Okay. Alrighty.
Algebra.
Now, all of you know how to do algebra.
Especially me.
All of you do. But you need practice. So we are going to do the algebra that is not the algebra you are going to do very often with this work. But it's more difficult. So you can practice algebra. This we could graph right away, yes? Okay. But I want it in general form. And the reason I'm doing that will become apparent once we have finished the job. Okay? So let's do that. What do we have to do to this form?
Is that a 4?
Just like there. To make this look like general form.
You're gonna multiply and you're gonna
Get rid of the
regular.
What bothers you? That negative 4 bothers you.
No, the fraction does.
The fraction bothers you.
Multiply it.
What else bothers you?
Everything.
There's a lot about this that doesn't look anything like that, isn't there? Brackets, fractions. We don't like them. So we got to get rid of them.
You got this.
What do you want to get rid of?
Brackets.
Get rid of the fraction? How do we get rid of divided by 3?
Multiply. Oh, so we're just doing algebra?
Yes. We are just doing algebra. If I multiply this side by 3, what happens to that 3 and that 3?
Cancel out.
They disappear, and I'm left with 2x plus 2. Agreed? Yes, Suhani. You can, but every time I do more than one step in a row, somebody goes, I'm confused. So I'm doing it one step at a time. Yes, Preston.
When you times by the 3, doesn't the 3 also times like the x plus 2?
No. Here's why. Again, 3x times 3. What is it? 9x, right? Okay. Well, this is just 3 times x plus 2. So wouldn't this just be 9x plus 2?
Because it's in brackets.
Okay.
It can't change.
The brackets holds all that together. It doesn't matter what's in there. It's one thing because of the brackets. Cool?
Brackets are important.
The reason I am doing this, and I'm glad you, Toya, said to get rid of the fraction first, because 99% of the time you guys say, I want to distribute that fraction in there. And then I ask you to do 2/3 times 2, and half of you, it's 4/3.
He hates us.
If you multiply this side by 3, what do you do to this side? What do you get?
So it's grade 7. Over board. And then now you're talking
Now, what here must I change to get to my goal?
I feel like you could still
I should do what? Get rid of the brackets. Now what must I do to get from here to here?
You can do minus. You can do the plus 4, minus 4, minus 3 thing. I was like,
Make this.
Bring the y over the thing.
There you go.
Or no, bring the wait.
No, you don't want to move the x because the x has to be positive. So that guy shouldn't move.
you can't cross.
Where should this go?
In this case, in this situation.
I'm trying to make this look like this. Right, minus 3y, because it's coming over here. What do I do with this? Plus 4 plus 12. And what do I get? 2x minus 3y plus 16 equals 0. Now, I told you I had a reason for doing this. When we look back at this form, what is the point that we know is in the graph? -2, 4. Yes? That -2 is an x, correct? So what is that? So that would be -4, yes? Minus, that's a y. What is that? A y. What's 3 times 4? What is -4 minus 12? -16. Plus 16 equals 0. So we know we did it right.
Is that only to check it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. The point of it all is simply this. Through algebra, you can make any of these equations do what you need them to do at any time. Okay? Because this green equation and this yellow equation are exactly the same thing. Okay? That's the point of what I am doing right now. I will in a second. Take this and make all three of the other ones. Go. Is there a right way to start? No. You can work it however you want. But if you'd like a recommendation, always go to general form first, because general form is the most easiest, double superlatives, is the most easy to manipulate elsewhere. Because general form automatically gives you standard form, and it's real easy to get into slope-intercept form, so all I got to do is isolate y. So I always go to general or standard first, but you needn't. You can go to whichever one first that you want. I, of course, will be writing it out here step by step, and it will be recorded. Now, Preston, this is what you were asking about. When I got it to slope-intercept form, I had a yucky number. So which of these four would I have wanted to use to graph? Point slope, general, standard, or slope-intercept? Remember, general must use algebra. Which of these four could I graph right away perfectly? Slope-intercept had that fraction. That makes it a pain. You could, but it wouldn't be exact, right? Unless you changed your scale. This one you can graph right away. Okay? Now, please notice, I can't possibly explain this any better. I don't know how. I showed you every step. I used a different color for every step. And I even wrote out what I was thinking. Can everybody do this algebra?
I'm struggling with one of them.
Which one?
The second one because the y equals negative, like y equals x. I don't know how to find out.
This one?
Yeah, I can find.
Well, I started with this. I moved the x. And then I divided by 2. I isolated y. Okay. All right. Now, listen up. You have your Unit 5 test tomorrow. You have the assignment from page 240. All right. Okay. Everybody's with me so far? On Friday, we are going to page 40 is due Friday. Tomorrow evening, page 240 is due Friday. No. On Friday, we are going to do Unit 7. It's a one-day unit. It's just this. Okay? It's just practicing this question. All right? There's an assignment that goes with that. That will be due Monday. All right? Next week, we will do the 8th unit. And then you will have your final exam the week following.
So we don't have a test for this.
Now, list for 6, yeah, that'll be happening sometime next week, obviously. Right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I just.
So, now listen to me, because all of you wouldn't stop at the beginning of the class. You missed a bunch of stuff. I'm going to truncate that information for you now. Your final exam. At the beginning of the year, I was given a chart or a calendar, and you all have an app. Both the app and that calendar, I have just found out today at lunch, are wrong. The app is programmed by the people that are in charge of our school. The calendar was made by the people that are in charge of our school, but somehow they are wrong. Your final exam will be in this room on January 23rd in the morning. All right?
First thing morning.
You have the entire morning to do the exam. But it will be silent in here. If you come in at 8:05 and you are ready to write your exam, you may start your exam because it is going to be dead silent. If you are not ready to write your exam, you will be studying in your book. When the lunch bell rings at 10:57, your exam time is done. If you have wasted too much time studying, your deadline is a deadline. Do I make myself clear? Also that week, you will be writing the numeracy exam. They have not told us when. They have not told us where. So I cannot tell you where. or when. It is done on a computer. No. Also, because of the loss of those 2 days that I had on my calendar and had planned for, those days were the days that you were going to write your Unit 8 test, and it was the day you were going to write your last cumulative. Those days have now been ripped out from under me like a carpet. So, somehow, I have to manufacture a day that will allow you to write your Chapter 8 test. The only way I can do that is to do some excision of Chapter 8 work.
Are you doing XBlock?
Yes, but I have 3 other blocks that might need XBlock time because they have a final exam coming up as well. And I don't want to use up my whole XBlock for you guys because of this situation. It's not your fault and it's not my fault. I don't know why all of a sudden the calendar that we were given at the beginning of the year is no longer valid. Nobody has told me why. I don't care to ask because it will make me furious. So, what this means is next week, what may have to happen, and I know you do not care, I just may not test you on the last unit. But I will put a couple of the questions on the final, just to make sure you know what you're doing.
Yeah, so all 8 units are on the final?
All 8 units are well represented on the final, but some are more represented than others because of your next year's curriculum. No.
For the final exam, is it going to be divided into...
There will be 36 multiple choice questions and 8 open-ended questions. Something like that.
And it's all mixed, it's not like in order.
I can't remember. Might be in order.
36.
I'm sorry, Selena. Yes, the multiple choice part will be on bubble sheets.